Law enforcement has responded with a serious show of force. They have infrared cameras, canines, dive teams. You mentioned this reserve is vast. It is larger than Manhattan, 25,000 acres. We learned in that search warrant one of those text messages was a text to Gabby's mom. The last text she received, she called her grandfather Stan, and Gabby's mom said that was so abnormal it concerned her because she always called her grandfather Grandpa, not Stan. So those text messages we know they're looking at, but other than that, bags and bags of evidence, we're going to have to wait to find out what was in those.
Reporter Sydney Persing is live in Surfside. And Sydney, how is she's holding on to hope?
Well, as her children, they really are. Manny will introduce you to his ex-wife in just a second here, but he was a big guy, right? He was really strong, and so his family believes if anyone could have survived this fall, it would be him. And we've actually heard that line of thinking from lots of families here. They believe that if any person could have survived this, it would be their person. Sadly, though, as the hours grow longer here in Surfside, fewer families seem to have that hope. Manuel Lafont, Manny to his two kids, is one of 159 souls in Surfside still missing.
They don't lose their hope to find their dad.
Manny's ex-wife, Abriana Lafont, told me their children are waiting for their daddy to come home. They were with him in the Champlain Towers, and by the grace of God left just 3 hours before everything came crashing down. She's thankful, and she's afraid.
I feel like they born again, and I can hug them and kiss them, and that makes me keep going. So I'm just waiting for Manny. I'm just waiting for him.
The 159 missing souls in Surfside, they have families waiting and praying for them to come home.
Oh, Manny, we're waiting for you. I mean, the kids and I want to hug you and tell you how much we love you and that everything is going to be okay.
But because sometimes in life, everything is simply not okay. But Tina Obias, missing her aunt and her uncle, reminded us all who are watching this desperate search in Surfside tonight.
Treat your parents like it's the last day of their life. Hug them and kiss them. It's like it's the last day of their life. Because God decides when it's time for us to go.
So back to Abriana for a moment. She told me that she loves to tell people about her ex-husband, and she loves to say their marriage didn't work out, but she still loves him dearly. She said he is simply the best dad to their kids. And she told me it's really a weird feeling, right? Because on one hand, she has all of this shock and this tragedy, but on the other, she feels really so grateful and so blessed that her babies were spared in all of this. So we're going to be here in Surfside. We'll continue to bring you more family stories as this terrible tragedy continues to unfold. These are the faces of the doctors and nurses and respiratory therapists. These are the faces of the social workers and pharmacists and nutritionists and palliative care specialists. All of them together work to care for one COVID patient in the ICU. Are they tired?
They're exhausted.
Many look focused when they mask up, when they walk into a patient's room, and many look down when they read a patient's chart or learn of another loss. Hard to tell if she's wiping sweat off her eyebrows or tears away from her eyes. Both happen often in this ICU.
Because unfortunately what you see here, it's going to happen next door, and it's going to happen to the next patient and the next patient. And it's unfortunately, it feels like Groundhog Day. We're having the same conversations over and over and over.
So we actually called the husband when I thought she was not going to make it.
We can only show you their faces because we can't show you the faces of their patients. Because they can't consent to being filmed when they're unconscious, when they're intubated. Face down and with tubes in their mouths, stomachs, and bladders. How many patients did you all lose in here yesterday?
5. We lost 5 patients yesterday.
Is there anyone in here today that is near end of life?
Potentially all of them. It takes one bad moment before to lose them, but potentially all of them.
Teresa King is the ICU nurse supervisor. I watched as she and her team did their 10 a.m. rounds on the second floor of the intensive care unit at Cape Coral Hospital. King sees heartbreak everywhere.
I've seen ventilator settings here that I didn't know were capable for people, but we're trying so hard to make them breathe that it's putting their bodies through a tremendous amount of, it's almost like putting their bodies through battle, and we're just trying to support them and carry them through one more shift.
She sees heartbreak in the rare moment she sees an empty bed.
There are so many people in need of an ICU bed. Sometimes it's almost immediately that a person who dies is taken to the morgue, this room is sanitized, and another COVID patient is brought in here.
There's no time to wait. There's people waiting for the beds before it even happens. So there's no time to even digest the profound act that just happened.
And she sees heart in the eyes of her staff who work overtime to beat the odds and save a life.
We're still here. We're still pushing, and although we all are mentally stressed, physically stressed, and tired, that we will continue to keep fighting, even if other people won't.
And she sees heart on glass doors. A heart signifies a COVID patient, so she sees lots of heart. And in those red heart rooms, she sees pictures of families she'll never meet, but never forget.
We had a man who was being put on the ventilator, and he showed us pictures of his children right prior to being on the vent, because he knew he may not have made it out. And after he finished showing us pictures of his children, he put his phone down. We get ready, and he said, "Stop. If I don't make it, please make sure everyone that I said thank you." So it's the gratitude of it that's profound. That even in his last moments, he wanted to make sure that he knew that he was so gracious for the care and all of our efforts to try to save him. And unfortunately, we weren't able to.
And on Sunday, despite their best efforts, the doctors and nurses and everyone else in Lee Health's ICUs were not able to save 8 more people. Right now, they've got 70 on ventilators, and the reality is the large majority of those people very likely will not come off alive.
It is a very, very sad situation. Sydney, of the things that you were able to witness but you weren't able to show us, what really struck you the most?
So much, but probably the one thing I will never forget is the way we describe those folks with the tubes in their bodies in so many places face down. It's very dehumanizing, so the nurses and doctors keep a board in every room with details to talk about that life. Dad of 3 from the Bronx, loves the Yankees. And we saw so much more. We talked to so many other doctors and nurses, and we're going to share a number of these stories throughout the week so people can go inside as much as possible.
Sydney, the session started today. How long could it take to pass this law?
It could be as late as Friday, Chris. It could also be earlier, but the finish line on day 1 was not the focus, not for Democrats. They believe this is, yes, political, but also personal between 2 men who aren't even here.
Without objection, the Senate is now adjourned for the day.
Without objection is a technical term, but to be sure, Democrats most definitely object to this special session.
Floridians are exhausted from COVID-19, but they're also exhausted from the politicization of the virus.
Almost all Democrats are thinking it. Almost all Democrats are saying it. But perhaps no Democrat went as far as State Representative Evan Genie when he told reporters over Zoom this special session is nothing but a DeSantis-Biden war.
This is about 2 men having a measuring contest that they should have in private, and instead they're letting it spill out in front of full public view. But this is political theater.
I think the theater has started in Washington with the Joe Biden administration and the overreach of the federal government.
Naples Republican Bob Rummel echoed the sentiment of House and Senate Republicans, laughing off the idea the special session is anything other than necessary to, quote, keep Florida free. I asked North Fort Myers Republican Spencer Roach for his take.
Well, look, everything we do up here is political. We're politicians. This is the Florida legislature. I think this is consistent with where the governor has been all along. So I don't see this as something new that he's using to gain political leverage.
If picking people living and not dying is bad politically, I don't know what I'm doing here anymore.
Safe to say the back and forth between Republicans and Democrats will only continue here as the week progresses, on and on over the next several days. Important to note, though, that both parties pretty much know how this is going to end. The GOP controls both the state House and Senate. Lawmakers will deliver something close to what Governor DeSantis wants. Reporting live here in Tallahassee, Sydney Persing, Wink News, now.